This is Reframe, the podcast from the College of Education, Health, and Society on the campus of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. There's a lot of different ways to help struggling communities heal and thrive. And in this episode, we hear from an EHS student who wanted to learn how she could better serve her local community by traveling all the way to Washington, D.C. to learn the ins and outs of our political system. And along the way, she also, unexpectedly, found herself helping another local community heal in the aftermath of a national tragedy. Life as a Washington insider is never predictable, which is exactly what Naomi Gaston learned while participating in a Miami University program called Inside Washington. Inside Washington gives students the chance to meet and work with influential national leaders, and Gaston and her Miami peers were in D.C., speaking with House Majority Whip Republican Steve Scalise. He's the Louisiana congressman who was shot and critically wounded during a congressional baseball practice last year. They were speaking with Scalise in his office right when news of the Parkland school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas first broke.
We were with Steve Scalise when the Parkland shooting happened. We're in a meeting with him. And a staffer comes in and they're like, hey, the shooting just happened at this high school. Talking to him about it. And we are with him, talking to him about gun control when he finds out about Parkland. So just experiences like that, you just never know what's going to happen.
Gaston, a social work and Black World Studies major, is interested in community organizing and advocacy. And these are not fields that typically send students to this particular program, which often hosts those who are more interested in political science and journalism. But for someone like Gaston, who is concerned with helping individuals and communities thrive, it was an ideal way to learn how to help local voices be heard at the national level. During the first half of the program, Miami students hear from guest speakers, visit important sites, and generally gain insight into the world of Washington through face-to-face meetings. And alongside Congressman Scalise, Gaston and her fellow Miami students also met with Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House and Miami alumni Paul Ryan, House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer, and more.
Being able to be in the room with people who you've only seen on TV. Being able to sit down with Nancy Pelosi and ask her a question, any question in the world. It really just humanized everybody for me. Because I feel like we think that they're these big figureheads and politicians, but sitting down with them and asking them about their views and having them explain it to you in their own words, it was just great.
The second half of the program entailed a hands-on internship related to each student's field of interest. And during hers, Gaston worked for Congressman Alcee Hastings, U.S. Representative for Florida's 20th Congressional District. This also happened to be the very district that bordered the same district where the Parkland shooting had just occurred.
So that fueled my whole internship because when you're an intern, you're just answering phones, responding to emails, looking at the mail. So a majority of the mail was about Parkland and how it's affecting their community, how it's affecting their students. So that was really the major thing that we had to handle on a day-to-day basis, helping the community heal.
Because immediately following the aftermath, district offices were flooded with calls and visits from alarmed citizens concerned with the safety and well-being of their kids and communities. And Gaston had walked into her internship just as the chaos began to unfold. She primarily served as an intermediary for Congressman Hastings and his staffers between the district office and its local Florida residents. She answered phones, responded to emails, and even drafted letters on behalf of the congressman. It was really about knowing the congressman's stance so she could communicate that to the constituents.
So this is just really that point of contact between the staffers and the congressman and chief of staff and the community when they're calling or making visits.
Did it feel like you were actually helping, being in that office, being that point of contact as all this is happening all around you? Did it feel like you were making a difference?
Oh, definitely. A lot of the gun control calls and people calling about Parkland, being able to tell them, hey, this is what the congressman's working on right now. This is what he's doing in the community. We had the reception for Parkland survivors. My congressman, he spoke at that. So being able to be with the people who survived and speak with them about their experience and then being able to tell the constituents about that, I can't speak for every office, but in my office, I know that our constituents were being heard.
She also attended the now historic March for Our Lives rally, where she walked alongside her congressman and his chief of staff, and generally saw her role as keeping the public aware of exactly what was being done.
My office was so in touch with everything that's happening. Like, they're reaching out to different organizations in the community. They're talking with the schools, just seeing how they're all functioning, because it is hard. And I think that from your community or from your house or watching TV, it's like, oh, well, nothing's getting done, nothing's happening. But really seeing the process in which it has to happen, it's a slow process, but seeing them on it every step of the way and just really in tune with everything that's happening, it definitely gave me a different perspective of the government in general.
It's a perspective Gaston has already brought back to Miami, and it's one that will inform her future career. Today, she's back in Ohio doing summer work with the Peasley Neighborhood Center, which promotes participatory education and social change among local Cincinnati residents. Here, Gaston is already using what she learned in Washington to think about how the center can better secure funding and lobby local leaders. Because during the program, while she was inside Washington, she was also allowed to attend meetings between political leaders and lobbyists for nonprofits and public schools. And it's been an experience that's given her some invaluable insight into a process that is still so unknown to most people.
It's so vital, just understanding the inner workings and understanding how stuff gets done, because so many people come to Washington and they just don't know what to expect.
It's been the kind of experience that's pulled the curtain back just a little to reveal the ways in which it is possible to get involved in the political process on both the local and national level, and it's especially vital for anyone who, like Gaston, wishes to be a part of the political and social change they hope to see. Naomi Gaston is a junior at Miami University studying social work and Black World Studies. And there are many more episodes of our podcast now available on SoundCloud and on iTunes, where you can always leave us a review and a rating.